Welcome back, America. You know, I'm a huge fan of Mark Thiessen. We've never met. I don't think we've ever talked to each other, for that matter. I'm very glad you've agreed to come on the program. So, Mark Thiessen, let me ask you this question. There's this report, NBC, I just mentioned, Iran's willing to give up everything in the world. You know, they agree to everything in the world. I guess they did that with Obama, too, except enriching uranium. I mean, isn't that the crux of the matter?
Yeah, except for their nuclear program, basically. That's what it comes down to. I mean, look, they cannot be allowed to have centrifuges, because if they have centrifuges and they can enrich uranium, then they're going to build a bomb. And they may not build it when Donald Trump is president, because they know what Donald Trump will do to them. But as soon as Donald Trump leaves office, and if they still have that capability, then they will eventually get a nuclear bomb. And one of the things I admire most about Donald Trump is that he's the president who does what he said, what other presidents said they would do and didn't do. So four or five presidents said they would move the U.S. Embassy to Israel. Donald Trump actually did it. We've had multiple presidents who said that they're going to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. I believe that he's the president who's actually going to do it, because that's his MO. That's the president that we elected.
I agree. And he has said it over and over and over again, despite these isolationists, pacifists, whatever they call themselves, who say, no, if Iran gets nukes, it's manageable and so forth and so on. They're the ones who are out of sync, aren't they? That's not Donald Trump's position.
No, Donald Trump is not an isolationist. I mean, think about what he did in his first term. He destroyed the ISIS caliphate and killed Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. He bombed Syria twice for using chemical weapons against its own people. He launched a cyber attack on Russia. Zelensky and Trump are the only two world leaders ever to attack Russia in the 21st century. Destroyed their troll farm that was interfering in the elections. He ordered the killing of hundreds of Wagner fighters in Syria. He killed Qasem Soleimani and told the Iranians that if you retaliate, I'm going to take out 52 sites that I've picked out in honor of the 52 hostages you took in 1979. And now he's launched military strikes against the Houthis and pummeled them for a month. This is not these are not the actions of an isolationist president. So Donald Trump knows that what isolationists want to do is retreat from the world. Donald Trump makes our enemies retreat, because they know he's willing to use military force against them. And that threat and his credibility is enough to get them to back down. Why is Iran at the table right now? They weren't at the table with Biden when he was pouring cash at them, because they're afraid of Trump. That's the only reason they're negotiating. And what they're trying to do is buy time and convince him somehow to allow them to maintain their enrichment capacity so they can wait out the Trump presidency and then build their nuclear bomb. And I don't think Trump is going to fall for it.
I don't think he's going to fall for it either. And he's got a whole nation behind him that supports him. And this idea that he wouldn't bomb Iran, as I pointed out and you just reiterated, he did bomb the Houthis. I mean, and the Houthis are an extension of Iran. Maybe we got that backwards. I'm not sure. Maybe we should have bombed Iran and left the Houthis, because they would have crumbled in and of themselves. But I don't know. Let me move to another subject with you, which is this. The Qataris pouring all these tens of billions of dollars into our country. Whatever the deals that were cut and so forth and so on, isn't it about time our government, Congress, and the president say to the Qataris, stop pouring your blood money into our colleges and universities. Stop funding these terrorist front organizations. Stop funding our K through 12 schools. Stop with your poison. Why don't we tell them to cut it out?
We should, 100%. I mean, look, Qatar they play both sides. So they host the Al Udeid Air Base, which is the largest base we have in the Middle East, and they paid for that. They spent $1 billion building that for the United States, and we use that to great effect. But they are the nexus of terror and anti-Americanism in the Middle East. They hosted, Sinwar, the guy who planned the October 7th attack on Israel. He did it from his villa in Qatar, where he has billions of dollars stashed away in Qatari banks. They have joint oil fields with the Iranian regime that they're developing. They host the exiled leaders of the Taliban. There's so many things they're doing to promote terror. And Al Jazeera, by the way, they've got people on Al Jazeera promoting suicide bombing, just calling for the destruction of Israel, launching anti-American tirades all the time. That is spreading Islamist radical propaganda throughout the Middle East. This country is not an ally. They may be useful for us as a intermediary to deal with some of these nefarious groups, but we should not be accepting their money. We should not have American universities should not be getting funded. And do you think it's a coincidence that Qatar is the #1 funder of U.S. universities, and we've seen this explosion of anti-Semitism on American college campuses? Because what kind of professors get hired into these programs funded by Qatar?
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.